Dorian Electra has made a name for themselves. The very first I heard of Dorian was their feature on Charlie XCX's Fembot off Pop 2. From there, they dropped the underrated Flamboyant in 2018 and now My Agenda in 2020. My Agenda shares a lot in common with Pop 2, not necessarily in its theming, but in the way that it's extremely collaborative. Numerous producers came together to create this record. Most notably, Dylan Brady of 100 gecs, Umru, and Sega Bodega. This hyperpop album is extremely experimental and a balls-to-the-walls 25-minute trip through Dorian's wild concepts. I may or may not reference Pop 2 in a complimentary way. This project just feels like Pop 2, but with a socio-political theming to it versus just improving the genre of pop in itself. Dorian has gone out of their way to explore the crisis in masculinity and talk about incel culture, but from a queer lens. This album was forged in the hellfires of this pandemic. Dorian was forced to record most of their vocals at home. I'm gonna cover every track. Let's go! Wait, before I start, I just want to say I was a little bit disappointed that Dorian had released half of the project before releasing this record, but I'm pleasantly surprised that when we put everything together that this album really is the sum of its parts. The album opens with F the World featuring The Garden, Quay-Dash, and Dollywood. It's a pretty explosive statement on the nihilism that plagues the internet. F's in the chat was the very first thing I thought of. The lyrics very much feel like a commentary on male loneliness and the toxicity that breeds hate for oneself in the world, on the web. The Garden's lines distort into a haze while Quay-Dash really floats graphic images before Dolly's bridge brings us back to Earth. It's an artful piece. If I sound a little bit ASMR-y, it's because I definitely had some hot nachos, so if you hear lip smacks, I'm sorry guys. The titular track, My Agenda, is pretty self-explanatory. I really like the metal instrumental and the imagery of a gay dictator plotting to take over the world. The village people chiming in is such a welcome and random addition, but Pussy Riot's verse, translated, just sent me. It's insanity and satire at its finest. The bridge and outro literally take the song to the next level. At this point, shitposting has become an art form. The next track, Gentleman, is a continuation of fragile masculinity, but also a reclamation of aesthetics that we normally associate with incel culture. From its fedoras to pretending to be gentlemanly, to court women, to just the fandom of anime and stuff. Dylan Brady and Count Baldor just bring a beat that with a few adjustments would actually make for a pretty good Jason Derulo-esque song. I was really impressed with this one. Malady, which follows afterwards, continues the narrative set forth in Gentleman, but it strikes into the unrealistic expectations that the character has for their lady. It pokes fun into the absurdity of these expectations, and the mouth breathing just breaks the song down. I have to live for the juxtaposition between the imperfection of the mouth breathing compared to the perfection of the character that this character has in its head of what a woman should be like. Iron Fist is an uncomfortable banger. The subject matter is a conversation on relationship dynamics. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to delve too deep into the content. The production is top-notch, and Ferris Badwin's feature just adds to the atmosphere. Barbie Boy with Sega Bodega. This one is my personal favorite, from the story to the production just being so clean and smooth. Dorian mentioned that they wanted to have a track that really felt like a big pop banger, and this one is just such a fun flip on the iconic Barbie Girl song. I like the juxtaposition here where they managed to flip the conversation back towards unrealistic expectations for imagery for men, and the implication by Sega's bridge that gender has become so commercialized that it's practically a disposable veneer that holds people back from true intimacy or self-understanding. Very genius. Sorry Bro, I Love You tackles the concept of homosexuality and bromance head on. I see this dealt with so much everywhere. Male intimacy is seen as gay, hence the repetition of sorry, but unapologetically displaying affection towards your bros is still frowned upon. I feel like Dorian here is trying to mention that love is seen in binaries, which leads to confusion when in reality love is amorphous and fluid. The production is really clean on this one. I respect this track. Monk mode with Gaylord is just so funny. I had to look up the translation of the Latin and it took me out. I wish this had been a full song, but it is a very cute interlude. Edgelord with Rebecca Black, of all people, is a future classic, from the music video lampooning the iconic Joker "We Live in a Society" meme to its really witty lyrics. This one's a keeper. I do think that there is a hidden depth to it, a fun duality in which we are not making fun of the memes, but it actually deals with the very real alienation of the people posting and creating these memes. It addresses their feelings almost compassionately. Rebecca Black's inclusion definitely speaks to a layer of reclamation here. She was dragged to death for Friday as a child and still to this day feels the fallout of that. Edgelords act out because they have no one to turn to. They end up adding more hurt in the world. So it's nice to have someone who's been hurt by the internet come in and really just give their perspective here. Ram It Down with Mood Killer, Little Marico, and Little Texas is an indictment of internally homophobic people. It's pretty straightforward. I really like Mood Killer's verse, down to the Lucky Charms line. Little Marico closing out the track is just perfect. I can't wait to see what they do in the future. The album closer, Give Great Thanks, is just such a departure from the other tracks, the closest thing to a ballad about something pretty risk that I can't talk about on this channel, but I think the vulnerability of this closes out the record on quite a high note. All in all, I think this is a very stellar record. It is a showcase of cohesion, collaboration, and creativity. I think as a project, it's stronger when it's actually listened to front to back. My biggest criticism about this record is that it feels like it's pretty much preaching to a choir. I think Dorian's audience mostly agrees with the sentiments behind this album and is here for bops, so they definitely get that. But the commentary is just so insightful and it's wasted in that it's almost inaccessible to the people who need to hear this album. I'm gonna give this album a solid 8.7 out of 10. This has actually been one of my favorites to listen to during the pandemic. I just don't see myself revisiting it that often because it is a very intense listen that requires active sort of paying attention to elements. But it is very scholarly pop, and I have to give Dorian all of the respect they deserve for that. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into my videos. This one was really quick. This one had to be out of the way as soon as possible. I'm working on an Adele series because apparently everybody's going to be dropping on October 30th, which is bound to be the most stressful day in any pop stan's life. I want to give a quick shout out to all of my members. Thank you so much for supporting my channel, for going out of the way to click that support button. Definitely comment what your favorite tracks are, what your favorite moments were from my agenda. Definitely don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't. Subscribing is a free way to support me as a creator, and I appreciate every single sub. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you for the next video.